Hi, Samantha.
Hello.
This is your first feature on the Peace, Love, Hormones podcast.
I know, I'm so excited.
So Samantha, for everyone listening who is new to Samantha, although people may have seen you on the Peace, Love, Hormones Instagram page already.
If they haven't, they need to follow us.
Yes, if you don't follow Peace, Love, Hormones, that's the first issue. Please go follow. But Samantha is one of the 5 lovely women behind the Peace, Love, Hormones Instagram page. So creating all those reels and content, email campaigns, just a part of my lovely marketing team. So grateful for you. You just came on in October of 2023. Before that, I was all alone for so long. So it feels so good to have that support of women who just are aligned with health and wellness and the Peace, Love, Hormones mission and herbal medicine and everything. So I'm so happy to have you on today. Way more fun to have you asking me these questions than for me to just be talking about myself alone.
Yeah. I mean, I love that I'm here. I love supporting you. We're like obsessed with you and Peace, Love, Hormones. It's going to be so fun.
I'm excited.
All right. Get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right. I think all of us want to know your story from the very, very beginning. So if you could start from the beginning, you weren't always an herbalist, of course. You know, we all have our stories, our struggles. If you could just kind of talk about that beginning for you, what was that catalyst that brought you here?
Yeah, so let me just backtrack a little bit. I do have a podcast episode on my story, but I was laughing with Samantha about this a few months ago. I was like, I rushed through it so quickly because, again, it's just kind of weird to talk about like your story and have absolutely no feedback while you're recording it. So without getting too, because I did talk a lot about it, and for anyone who's been following me since like the beginning of my Instagram page and blog, definitely know my story. So I don't want to sound too much like a broken record, but yes, I definitely struggled with my health from a very, very young age, which got me into this space in the first place. So my struggles, I think a lot of people can relate to this more than not. Just a bunch of different diagnoses were thrown on me as a kid, a young girl: anxiety, depression, anorexia, insomnia, and the eating disorder specifically was one that required me to be in either it was a partial or full hospitalization for a big chunk of my childhood. So it was really just my life. I remember at one point telling my parents, I was like, I need to go into medicine because I'm already spending all of my days on my health and wellness. So I need to like make this my job, you know, it's already my job in ways. But after an 8-year battle with anorexia, the final time that I was hospitalized for my eating disorder, unfortunately, it was not at the time, the last time I would have been hospitalized altogether. But I finally saw, okay, there's an issue here. I really want to address this so I can go off to college. I was just a senior in high school then. I want to be able to go off to college. I want to fall in love, have children one day, all of these things that like I am being told that I will never be able to do if I'm still this sick and in and out of hospitals. And I also wanted to start a business. I had no idea what that would be at the time, but I've always had that like entrepreneurial spirit and wanting to just do my own thing in general and break from the norm, so to say. Yes. So that was the first time I approached my parents and was like, okay, I didn't know at the time that there was such thing as herbal medicine or naturopathic medicine or integrative medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, etc. I just knew that what we had been doing for those 8+ years, the conventional approach was not working because number one, it caused a lot of trauma for me that I still am going through and working through as an adult. That's just like ingrained in my DNA of just being force-fed and not having the greatest experience with various doctors. So I know that there are great doctors out there, but that was just my reality for a really long time. So I approached my parents this time with this newfound desire to recover, you know, and to get better. But again, was like, we need to find a new way. So my lovely mom, who was really kind of like the CEO of my healing when I was younger, because I was young, you know, and also like for the most part, I didn't care. I didn't think that there was really an issue, even though I subconsciously did. And I didn't want to get better for the longest time. So anyway, my mom found a naturopathic medicine clinic that was about 40 minutes outside of Chicago, which is where I grew up. And that's really like was the start. I worked with that team for about 4 years. It was the first time I was seeing any sort of medical health professional that didn't want to medicate me. I was so heavily medicated at that point. And I was seeing a psychiatrist that was like, let's work on nutrition and sleep and stress management and vagal toning. And so from a young age, I was learning about all of this, not so much in the classroom setting. I was actually learning it hands-on while like doing it to myself, so like, firsthand experience. So I went into undergrad. I was able to go to college, which I was, determined. I was also, a side note, studying abroad in Spain at the time. I was like, I'm determined to get back to Spain, and very, very stubborn person. So
wait, what did you study in college?
That's we'll get into that.
Skipped ahead.
But so college was nutrition and dietetics, but I knew very quickly. So I remember telling my dad, specifically my dad, that that's what I was going to study. And he was like, I just know that's not what you want to do. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I feel like I already know so much,
Yeah.
So anyway, I found out through, again, my firsthand experience of sitting in those classrooms and doing my homework in those labs and those tests that, okay, I see now. And this was just a glimpse, right, of conventional medicine, right? Because I wasn't in full-on med school. But I was getting a glimpse, which I already got a glimpse as a patient before that, but now I was getting a glimpse into it as the student. And just a lot of that education and where it's funded and really tracking all of that and what we were learning, like such as, very sterile things about BMI, and how like basically that is like the one indicator of someone's health, or at least this was my education when I was there, And I went to the University of Missouri, which has one of the best nutrition and dietetic programs in the country. So you'd think that it would be, the best of the best. So again, I don't know how this has changed, not to say that any dietitian or nutritionist listening to this is inadequate or doesn't know anything, right? But I was just not thrilled with my education. So my major, I switched it to business. And I was like, you know what? Let's just try and like figure out what I want to do. I know I'm going to do post-grad studies. So let's just focus more on the business side of things. Meanwhile, I'm like listening to all these podcasts, reading all these books. I'll just name out like a few of like kind of more well-known ones, like Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighton, In the Flow by Alyssa Vitti. I'm listening to all these podcasts. Again, like podcasts just became a thing around then. So there weren't like a whole lot of options, but anything that had to do with women's hormones and cycles, I was listening to it. Like I was on a walk while everyone else was hungover from the night before. I was up early in college on a walk listening to a podcast and reading so many books and realized, just everything that I talk about now, like slowly but surely I was like, oh my goodness, the birth control pill that I was still on for at that point about 6 years and how much that was also impacting my health in terms of sleep and anxiety and panic attacks. And I truly believe that if I did not find all of that out and I would have continued on the pill, I probably would have been one of those women who had like a fatal issue with the pill because of how my body was responding to it during the years that I was on it. So very, very grateful. I believe everything has divine timing. Thank goodness I found that and I started to do my own personal research and took myself off the pill. So then, post-grad, I knew that I wanted to study integrative medicine, naturopathy, and herbal medicine, so that's where I really focused. And simultaneously, I'd already started, when I was in my nutrition and dietetics classes, I started an Instagram page. It was called Madeline's Cookbook at the time, for any of the OG followers. Before it was the Maddie Miles, it was Madeline's Cookbook. And I would just share mostly nutritional tips and recipes, but I really did like a 360 and was like, okay, everyone, I'm going to talk about hormones and cycles now, so if you're not here for it, feel free to leave. I'm sure you're going to come back in the future because this is just so important.
Yeah.
And we're never given this information at any other point in our life through educational institutions. It's just not given to us, and most of us don't even have moms or sisters who really know about this. So we didn't have the elder women in our family teaching us this. So to kind of bring this all in together, that's how Peace Love Hormones was birthed, because I was doing all of this and I was sharing about it authentically on Instagram. And I also started my podcast. and was just talking about these conversations that are kind of taboo. And I would also bring on different experts across different fields. And Peace, Love, Hormones, the podcast, is so different now than it was when we started. When I started, it was very much like all about hormones and cycles, which of course everything is, we tie it back. But now we talk about like pelvic floor care, you know, we talk about vagal toning and nervous system support and EFT tapping. And we just talk about anything and everything that pertains to women's natural health and medicine. So it's really exciting to see the evolution of it all. And the tinctures are such a vital component to Peace, Love, Hormones. And herbalism for me is something that I initially found when I was in undergrad. I contracted Lyme disease, unfortunately, but I worked with that integrative natural clinic in Chicago, and we did a 4-month herbal protocol to completely reverse it and reverse all symptoms. So obviously that's something that I still actively work on and keeping my stress down and supporting my immune system, because you can have flare-ups with that. But that's when I was introduced to herbalism. And at the time I remember being like, wait, if it could do that, what else can it do for me? You know, because I was struggling with sleep at the time because of the pill. So really a lot of that stuff also just cleared up when I got off the pill. But herbal medicine and herbs were such great allies for me during that time. Again, I feel like the birth control pill was really like a beast. So they could only do so much for me in terms of my anxiety and the panic attacks and this insomnia. But that's when I found my way to herbalism. So for me, like, again, tying it all together, when I was stopping the pill, I felt this like deep intuition and connection to herbs, knowing that I needed to use herbs to help with that healing process. I was super nervous about like the post-birth control syndrome symptoms that everyone talked about. That was something that was like really in the forefront of my mind before stopping the pill, and I wanted to avoid at all costs. I was like, I don't want adult acne. I don't want to gain a bunch of weight or all this inflammation. I don't want the mood swings, etc. And for me, honestly, stopping the pill, it was monumental in so many ways. I didn't experience those symptoms, and I think it was a little bit of everything. Like, it was, of course, the herbs, but also nutrition and just taking care of myself and always prioritizing my health first, especially for those first 6 months post-pill. I really, really focused on taking care of myself and stopped drinking alcohol, caffeine. I mean, I've never been a huge caffeine person, but I definitely was making sure that I wasn't drinking caffeine on an empty stomach and wasn't drinking it past noon. And, you know, like, my health has evolved so much and is continuing to evolve as I learn more and more. And all of that is always shown through Peace, Love, Hormones. You know, you're on the team, you know?
I learned so much just from you, experiencing new things. So when you share a story, I'm like, oh my God, I need to know more.
Yeah, well, no one knows everything, you know? And I think that's where a lot of people feel like failed, is they assume that whether it's a doctor or it's any sort of practitioner or a celebrity, or a lot of people just expect someone to know everything. Yeah. And a huge part of what I do, and you'll know this, Samantha, but it's helping women tap back into their intuition, because no one knows your body better than you know it. You know, like, you're living with it. You're with it 24/7. You never get a break. So my role as the practitioner is more so to guide women to learn how to listen to those cues. So what are your symptoms telling you? And then, of course, you know, we try to use herbs whenever possible, as well as nutrition and lifestyle, all the things. I feel like I just answered so many of your questions.
You really did. I mean, I think when I just like reflecting on all of this, like, what's the most empowering is everything you're saying, like, through your journey was like your curiosity of like, you were just not going to take no. And you're like constantly, like, everything you're saying, you're like, I listened to the podcast. I kept learning. I kept asking the questions. Like, if there's just one thing to take away from all of this, is like, keep learning. Like, keep learning, keep being curious. Like, that's what we do with even the marketing at Peace, Love, Hormones. Like, I'm learning things as we're talking about it, and like, it's the education. Like, there's so much power in being able to know my body as a woman, like getting to know the herbs and how all this medicine supports you. So just knowing that, like, how much it's impacted your life, like, you're such a testament to it. So that's really cool witnessing.
Thank you. Yeah, I know the stubbornness has definitely been used for my advantage.
It's amazing. We all have to be a little stubborn.
I remember when I was, yes, for sure. I remember when I was younger, my dad was like, this is during one of our arguments. We had many when I was struggling with my eating disorder, but he was like, you just need to be a lawyer when you grow up. And I was like, looking at that profession now as an adult, I'm like, I could never, but I see what he was saying, because I'm super stubborn, you know, and I'll do things that aren't normal, you know, or normal,
Like
according to
unconventional.
to society. And I think that's great, though. I think that the more curious that we are, the more that we question things, the better off we'll be, and we'll have just more independence, and autonomy as well.
It's that freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
If you were to say like one thing for younger you, I mean, I know everything has divine timing and it all happens, as it happens, but if there's one piece of advice you could kind of, or even just a little bit of wisdom that you could kind of pour on yourself then, like think of 17-year-old Maddie or even younger Maddie, what would you tell her?
Yeah, I've thought about this so much, and I do this actually a lot in my meditation practices. It's a huge part of like my somatic healing journey. But I just always go back and I just try and like hold her, whether it's her hand or it's actually like fully embrace her and just tell her everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And, Braxton and I have talked about this a bunch too. And he's like, do you think she would accept that? And I'm like, probably not. Knowing
You're
myself.
stubborn.
Yeah. Knowing myself. But it would have just been nice to have that comfort, For a really long time, I just thought I was like an air quote, a lemon of a human,
Yeah.
And that I was just born this way and I was always going to struggle. And, looking at that back on that now, I'm like, oh, I wish I could have told myself that that's not the case and that you're actually going to be helping other people with their health too. So I think that's something that I still have to like pinch myself and remind myself of just how magical and beautiful my life is right now, especially when I get a message or a review on our website and it's like, you've literally changed my life. And I'm like, whoa,
so crazy.
I was struggling. I was on like my deathbed for a huge chunk of my childhood. So it's so cool to feel healthy and grounded myself. And it's so magical to help other women with that too.
That's amazing. If you were to tell, us in your community kind of like what your highest values and like what you prioritize in your life, what would you could verbalize it for us, what would that be?
Health above all, for sure. I mean, it can be tough. And I'm not a mom right now. So I have a lot of moms in my life and I see how that can really change prioritizing yourself and your health. But I also see the moms that do prioritize their health first and how much better they're able to show up for their children and for their partner, for work, just everything in their life. So mom or not, man or woman, like to always prioritize your health first is hands down like my motto and what I live by. Because if we don't invest like the time and the energy and sometimes even finances at the end of the day into our health now and well-being, we're going to pay for it in the future. And it's going to be much harder in the future to actually bounce back from that.
Yeah.
So like I'm sure everyone can kind of hear it now. Like I have a little bit of a sniffle right now, but I'm still like able to function and I feel great still because like an illness, like a cold doesn't impact me nearly as bad now that I take such good care of myself as it would if I, went to bed past midnight every single night and drank alcohol and went out and partied and ate fast food and didn't take care of myself, So, like invest in your health now so that you can show up the best that you possibly can for everyone, including yourself. And so that in the future, these little setbacks, whether it's an illness, like they're not these massive things that you are having to see 20 plus doctors for and get surgery for. And it like literally impacts your entire life for a matter of anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. So
that's so true.
Or a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Years. That's so true. If you were to like summarize or give us your top health routine practices, what are they?
Yeah, mornings are huge for me. I'm a morning girl.
You're always she's always like, I need meetings start in the afternoon because mornings are like you're so good at that.
And it works for you because you're like, I like to rest in the morning. Yeah. I love mornings. It really sets the tone for my entire day. So having like a really nourishing morning routine, and it always changes a little bit. Like there are a few variables that are subject to what phase of my cycle that I'm in, but always, like here are some, staples, always breakfast, always getting outside and fresh air and fresh light upon waking, even if it's cold. I was just in Colorado and it was 5 degrees. So I understand anyone who's, on the other end going, it's cold here. I bundled up a lot and pretty much only my eyes were showing because I was so bundled up, but I still, your eyes receive that light and it, triggers all of these beautiful physiological reactions such as, your digestion and your brain function and all of these things to really kickstart your day. So that's like a non-negotiable for me. A really nourishing breakfast. Of course, my herbals in the morning as well. Beyond just Soothe, I take a bunch of different herbals and supplements. I don't overdo it by any means, but I also I do what I want, and I feel like there's so much information out there on social media that's like so conflicting. I've noticed like people tend to they have to take a very like polarizing side. So whether it's like, you need to supplement a lot. And then there are those people who are like, if you're supplementing a lot, you're doing something wrong. And, I think that's it's a really, it's honestly a really like weird, dangerous spot to be in, to tell people that, because some people really need to be on supplements, and I wish that we could get all of our nutrients from the food that we eat, but that's just like not the state and the quality of our soil or the availability that we all have, so anyway, before I digress a bunch.
You're like, I'm ready for the rant.
Yeah. my staples are, breakfast, sunlight, movement, and some sort of spiritual practice, whether it's journaling, it's meditation, it's dancing with Braxton, it's cuddling with my dog, Colby, because pets are just like so magical to me, like animals. Oh my God, the best. And little children, like pets and animals are pets and children, like watching them and how they just are super intuitive with everything and how they regulate their nervous systems is something that's very calming to me. So, but yeah, that's my morning.
I love
Wait,
that.
was that your question?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
What are your health practices? Oh. So I feel like that was good. That answered it.
Yeah. And I will say, like, because I have a history of an eating disorder, for me, nutrition is very, very important. Not just the food that I'm eating, but also my relationship with it. So, again, I'm human. Some days get a little funky, but for the most part, I mean, I always eat 3 square meals a day, and this is where sometimes it gets a little funky, but I really do try to have like a breathwork practice before a meal. So it's not like I don't like to work and eat. That's not my thing. So really just like being with the meal, like today I was just sitting outside in the sun and eating my lunch and, just had like a spiritual moment with my food and connected to it. So every day is different though. Some days you're running around or you're traveling or you're sitting on an airplane. So it looks a little different.
It's like making it a practice.
Yeah. For sure. There are so many ways that we can ritualize our days and make them beautiful. But there's like a balance between ritualizing things for the sake of like the art and, the benefits, but not getting too attached to them either, because I definitely struggled throughout my health journey with like being so rigid about certain things. So I can confidently say and happily say at this point in my life, I'm not attached to anything though. Like we love to travel, and when we're waking up at 6 a.m. to catch a flight, I don't have my outdoor grounding in the morning. I'm not getting the sun in my eyes, So the flexibility is a huge part of health.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so true. Yeah. I love that. I'm inspired. Maybe one of these days
we're working on it.
I'll work up early enough for morning routine.
We're working on it. You're at least taking your herbs. So,
I know I am. Bitters, you guys, life changing for a girl with some little gut issues.
Yes,
amazing. Another last question I think that will be really solid is what kind of keeps you inspired and going? You're not only so great at taking care of your health and you prioritize that, you are running a business, you are a partner, you are a friend. Like you are all of these roles and you really do them so well. I mean, I admire you for so many reasons, and I want to know, what keeps you going, what motivates you, what keeps you inspired, what keeps you going.
Number 1, sleep.
So important.
Literally just sleeping. That is a crucial factor. But really just, I have this deep love for herbalism and naturopathy. So like I said, I was doing this long before I, was made a business out of this.
Yeah.
So the passion has always been there. Which is why Soothe is no longer just, by itself anymore. We have 2 other herbal formulas now and more in the works, because I just love creating. I love playing with herbs. I love learning, not just for myself. And that's obviously like the main reason, right? I'm like, I want to feel my best. And as I have children in the next few years, it's like everything that I'm doing now will also support them and, et cetera. Never striving for perfection, but, trying to get pretty close to just feeling my best,
Of course.
But it's so exciting to read those messages. Y'all get those messages too, since, you're on the Peace Love Hormones Instagram page, and like the reviews that we get on our website are beautiful. Like for someone to tell you that you've changed their life, that's pretty special.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a beautiful testament of you, your work, like the community you're building, the fact that
but also the whole team.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, and even when I read those myself, I'm like, I know that I didn't create these formulas, but like the fact that I get to witness that, you know, like that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so magical to feel that, and that's definitely like pushes me, you know, to keep going. And we really don't get any sort of like negative comments, really. Like sometimes a viral video will pick up some straggler comments.
We've been talking about that one recently.
Yeah. But even on those posts, you look through and like 80 to 90% are just women sharing their genuine experiences, which always really motivate me too, you know, hearing how women have whether it's either they've been dismissed by their doctor and mistreated, that really motivates me to like take a stand and to continue to do work in the women's health space. Or they're sharing their experience about how they did X, Y, and Z naturally and they feel so much better. And I'm like, yeah. So many things, but really it's just like the community and then like my passion. Like I have such a drive every single morning to be like, let's do this. Let's create, you know, whether we're creating herbal remedies, we're creating nutritious food, we're creating videos and content and podcasts. I always want to create pretty much. Not always. There are definitely times in my cycle where I'm like, whoa.
On the right stage.
Yeah. Let's just do emails today or something like that. But I'd love to create.
I love that. You did hint at you're working at other tinctures. So you want to share a little bit about the vision of, you don't have to give it all away, but you know, what is your vision with Peace Love Hormones and what are we working towards?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to say like work with herbalism, right? Because we are one with herbs and plants and nature. But herbalism really is, it's the most ancient, oldest form of healthcare that there is in medicine. So just like the power and the gravity that holds, I will always be working with medicinal plants for sure. And Peace Love Hormones specifically, expanding the line a little bit. I don't know what that looks like now, if that's going to be like a really big line of just like your one-stop shop for all things herbal formulas, or if it'll be kind of a more small niche line. I do know for certain that it will evolve with me as I evolve throughout my womanhood. So as I approach motherhood, I will definitely be creating more pregnancy-specific tinctures and postpartum-specific tinctures. As I eventually go through perimenopause and menopause, the formulas will change then, even though my mom highly requests now for me to start making them for her and her friends. She's like, I will literally sell all of them for you. I know. She's like, I'll sell all of them for you. So we'll see. I mean, you know, again, I have so much love and passion for herbal medicine. So when I get, you know, any sort of message like that, whether it be from a close friend, family member, or from a stranger, I'm always like, I want to do it. So we'll see. But I do know this brand and this line will always be here. I hope that my future daughters want to take it on and they want to run it themselves. It'll always be in good hands no matter what. It'll always be there. Like Peace Love Hormones will always be a thing, supporting women from all over the world.
That's so beautiful. That's great. I knew some long-term vision, but the fact that it's even generational, you know, that's really powerful to say. It's like a lifeline. Yeah, I mean, it's going to grow with you.
We'll see. Watch me have like all boys and then
it'll still grow with you, I promise.
Yeah, right.
If there is any that was Peace Love Hormones, but are there any specific, you know, accomplishments personally or even professionally that you're kind of celebrating right now or that you want to share?
Yeah. I mean, so much is changing with Peace Love Hormones. As you know, Samantha, like our website right now, so much work has gone into that for the last 8 months at this point, and it's just so beautiful and worth all of the annoyance that I've had over it and the tears and the late hours. I've learned a lot about coding and websites. Never thought I would say that, but that is really just like a beautiful reflection of our brand, and I wanted it to evoke emotion in people and to be meaningful. So definitely the website. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, please go check it out because because I love it.
And send us a DM telling us how much you love it.
Please, that would be great. For the podcast, I really want to start recording more podcast episodes. Right now we're doing bi-weekly. And in the future, I would really, really love to start pushing out more podcast episodes. I think would be great. One of my favorite podcasters, Dr. Stephen Cabral, he's a naturopath doctor. He puts one out every single day. Major props to him.
Wow.
He's been on our podcast before. He'll be on in a few months as well. But I don't know if I'll do that, but at least once a week.
That's
I would
amazing.
really like to start doing once a week.
We'll start there.
Our YouTube channel as well is expanding now that it's 2024, and we have all the right team members in place for that. So that's more so on the business front.
Yeah.
And of course, continuing to grow in all ways. Personally. I will say I have so many baby nieces and nephews at this point. Like both my sisters keep popping them out. And for anyone who follows me on social media, you probably see I travel all the time to go visit them because they don't live here. So that and travel are family and travel are two pillars in my life. And so Braxton and I have some fun adventures coming up, as well as I'm starting school for naturopathy. So a bunch of moving pieces in my life and perhaps a move coming up in the next year or two. So yeah, lots of beautiful things. I have a wonderful team, including you with Peace Love Hormones now. And this new year was really, really beautiful, reflecting on where I am now compared to last New Year's and how much more support I feel having a really aligned, strong, healthy, conscious team with me. So to the moon, I say.
That's amazing. That's a great reflection. Is there one last kind of thought that you want to share, kind of wrapping this up, thinking about your last few years of just building Peace Love Hormones, what has been really magical takeaways that you could share with us? A reflection.
Yeah, just continuing to learn about the female physiology and the infradian rhythm and the circadian rhythm, just all of our internal biological processes and rhythms it's just been so awesome because again, my physiology, anatomy, biology, chemistry, all those classes in undergrad never taught me any of this. All my post-grad studies taught me, why did we not learn about this? And it's so awesome. And I really love seeing the health and wellness space multiply as well. Again, I think everyone has to take everything that they see and hear and read with a grain of potassium, even stuff that I put out there, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, bioindividuality always trumps everything. But I will say it is really exciting to see all of the new health technology that's coming out and lab testing and people just speaking out about this stuff. I've seen a lot of medical doctors also drop their license to be able to talk and educate in certain ways that are more holistic. So I feel this, and I see this really big shift happening in general with just humans. And it's really exciting to be a part of that. It's anxiety provoking sometimes for sure.
Change.
But it's also really cool and powerful to experience that and to be a part of it. And then I will say as well, I am actually a part of a South by Southwest panel this year.
You haven't even told me about it more. I need to know more.
So for anyone in Austin, please subscribe to our emails and text because I will definitely send out a campaign around that. And then on social media as well, I'll post about it. But I'm really excited for that and just to continue to talk about this to the masses and to get this lovely, important, vital information out there.
Well, it's amazing. We're so grateful for you for doing it. I mean, I learned so much from just experiencing your presence and being able to work with you. So the fact that you have this podcast is really awesome. And I wanted everyone to know your story because I remember the moment you told me, I was like, you've changed my life from storytelling is so powerful. And I feel like when you hear these testaments of people's health and their journey and what's brought them to where they are now, you're like, oh, I can do that. I'm empowered to learn so much more about my own health to be able to get to a better place too.
I'm so happy. And one last thing I'll say too, I have to put this out there because it's been on replay in my mind all day. But so many people take Advil or OTCs or medications without a second thought, you know?
That's true.
So for anyone who is a little bit nervous about herbalism, about my herbal tinctures, about supplements, of course, always education first, which is why we have the podcast, which is why I spent so much time on our website and making sure it was so detail-oriented and educational. We have our blog post and our article section as well. And then, of course, we have social media. So education galore. We have so many resources for everyone. And it's so important, no matter what you're doing, to just be a little bit educated on it. You know, I'm a firm believer in that. But herbal medicine has been around since the beginning of time. And again, it's the oldest form of healthcare. It's been around for millennia. So these OTCs, a lot of these medications have only been around for a little bit over 100 years. So that is just some inspiration from me and my 2 cents on giving herbal medicine some more love and trusting it more as well. Not all herbs are for everyone. I'm not saying that, but we should all be herb curious, I say, and we should start incorporating herbs into our life like ASAP, whether it's through culinary herbs and spices and adding those to your meal. We know how much that has positive impact on the gut microbiome just after 24 hours. And then more medicinal, such as the herbal tinctures, but you can take herbal baths. Like there's so many things that you can do with herbs.
Is there like one resource or a place where someone, of course, we're a great resource, one, first of all, but is there, you know, a place or a book or a podcast or something else that it's like, or a website where someone's like, if you want to learn just about herbalism?
Yeah, Rosemary Gladstar, she's known as the godmother of Western herbalism. I've had the honor of learning from her and actually being in person with her. And she has so many books. I mean, at least 10 books that she's written throughout her life so far.
You're next.
And so much experience. Like, Rosemary is just a wealth full of knowledge. She has a website, she has a YouTube channel. So I would definitely like go over to Rosemary's page, and it's a great addition to anything that we put out there, because we talk a lot about herbalism for sure, but we talk a lot about just everything when it comes to women's health. So Rosemary's very focused on herbalism, not just for women, but for men, for seniors, for infants and babies and toddlers and children. So she's I love all of her books. I've read literally every single one of her books, and she's awesome. So everyone should definitely go check out Rosemary's stuff. And Dr. Aviva Ram, who's a midwife, a gynecologist, and a herbalist, she has some online programs that it's kind of like she has one course that's for practitioners who want to have that extra training and knowledge in herbal medicine. And she also does one for like moms and parents, or, you know, just kind of your everyday person who maybe doesn't want to do that full time but wants to know more about herbalism. So she has a bunch of great resources as well. Aviva is kind of like us in that she talks about a lot of things when it comes to women's health, but she does have those herbalism courses. So it's really great. And then I always tell people too, because I get a lot of messages asking like, where can we study herbalism? There are so many herbalism schools, like a lot. Maybe they're not talked about as much, you know, but in my realm they are. So I always just tell people, number one, like always look local first, because having that in-person hands-on is really great. And if you can move to wherever you want to go to school for herbalism, I highly recommend that. But there are a lot of online programs as well. It just depends, like, do you want to just like know a little bit about it?
Why are you doing it?
Right. There's such thing as like the family herbalist, right? Or the community herbalist. And those are, you're not seeing them so much like in clinics or in practices, right? And doing like the very medicinal type stuff, but they're healing themselves and their families and their communities. So there's so many different levels of herbalism that you can get into. So honestly, a good Google search or asking an herbalist that you know, like, what do they recommend? There are like thousands of programs. So there's a lot of options out there. And, it's super important to learn. So yeah, whether it's a podcast, it's a book, online course, in person, school, whatever you want to do.
I feel like that's the takeaway. For all of it, it's like, stay curious and like, keep learning. At least for me, I'm like, for what I learned from Maddie, I'm like, I just got to keep learning.
Yeah. And there's always stuff to learn, you know? I'm on it. I will never stop learning, you know? But that's the important thing. Like, everyone should be learning always.
For sure. It's so empowering.
For sure.
Well, wow, this is great. My first podcast.
Hey, you did great.
Thanks.
Everyone let us know how Samantha did.
Please, only good comments only. I'll read them.
Well, thank you for interviewing me because I'm so awkward when I just do it by myself. And thank you to everyone who listened to today's episode. If you liked it, please let us know. If you want to share this with anyone who you love and admire, that would be great. Let's just continue this conversation, right? Like, again, Peace Love Hormones is not going anywhere. So also, I do want to say we did roll out our referral program. So if you love Peace Love Hormones and you want to be a part of the Peace Love Hormones family even more, definitely go and join the referral program. And then we also have our IG channel now, which we are just going to do for January for our 30 Soft, but we're going to extend it and we're just going to have that channel ongoing to make that community just stronger and bigger. And it was either that or a Facebook page, and I was like, let's do Instagram.
It's been so good.
It's been so awesome. So we share recipes there, tips, the whole shebang. So definitely go follow us there. Join the conversation.
I love it.
Thanks, Samantha. Thank you to everyone who listened. And until next time, peace, love, hormones.